This week, we're talking about Jedi Survivor. We're going to talk about Phil Spector, Phil Spencer, and New York, New York on Broadway. And now your host, Mike Indeglio.
What is up, team? Welcome to K&M Geekly. I'm Mike Indeglio. That is my good buddy Keith Varney, who can say hello this week. And this is your sneak peek at two geeks talking about some of the things that got him through last week, getting him through this week. I can tell you what's not, and that's any sorts of sports success. We always hit it at the top. Our sports teams suck, Keith. Nothing we do makes us happy.
It's not good. It's not good. It's very sad. It's very, very sad. But it's okay. We're still here. We're still talking on the internet. We recorded the pilot to Strange New Show, our new episode by episode guide of Strange New Worlds. And I thought it went great. It was really fun, but I realized we talked for 2 hours on that darn thing.
Mm-hmm. We did, but that's okay. In fact, YouTube was being a bit of a bugaboo and was not encoding as fast as they usually do, Keith, now that they accept the AV1 encoder. But that's not what we're talking about. I did get up at 6 o'clock this morning to push it live. It will generally air on Fridays.
Very strange. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I'm dedicated.
But I was very glad you actually did update the chapters.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Mike, I was literally about to text you. And then he did it. Aww,
teamwork makes the dream work, buddy.
Teamwork.
So this week, lots to talk about. We're keeping it cash. This is the easiest of our shows because we kind of just, we're just winging it. So welcome. The sun is out for the first time in what feels like months. So we're gonna nip this in the bud. We're gonna get out there. We're gonna take a walk. I'm thinking in my head, maybe I'll take a jog today.
Ooh, la-di-da. I'd take a jog.
Keith, I might have to not look at the screen because at some point I went from Salt and Pepper to Father Time.
Yeah, you're like the old man at the end of New Year's.
We're gonna have to change the cartoon and just take a Santa Claus and shave its beard. Yeah.
That's true.
Anyway,
yeah, you're definitely progressing from silver to white.
I've been stressed out. I was taking care of my mom this week. She had a pretty I've mentioned it before. She had a pretty routine carpal tunnel surgery, and then she had her convalescence at my home, and she's fine. Everything's fine. Thank you for the well wishes. She's great. She's just, Keith, my mom was turning 78 this year, and I think it's time for me to get back into my therapy, which has been on pause for a little while, because I'm recognizing that I'm finding it very emotionally difficult to watch my mom age. And I'm very focused and intent on making sure that she does so with dignity, but I'm finding that my kind of emotional reticence to acknowledge her new needs and is causing a roadblock. It's not allowing me to kind of be there as emotionally supportive as is necessary. Like she's, forgetting a lot of things and just not able to move as fast and do as many things for herself. And I think it's a combination of, and I'm finding myself responding with a lot of frustration and anger, which I'm sure I can project a lot of reasons why that is, but it's not how I want to respond. And a lot of it is, I think, not wanting to see what I'm seeing and recognizing the road ahead is going to be very challenging, and not wanting to admit that we're where we are, right? You always kind of picture that in being in the future, but it's sort of here now.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think I gotta get back into it.
I get it. I mean, transitions of life that we're all going through, whether you're 10 or whether you're 100, it's scary, right?
Mm-hmm.
And scary is, unless we are careful, scary turns to resentment pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good for you. I think that's probably not necessarily a bad plan. Everybody should be in therapy, I think, personally.
Also, in other news, Geekly news, friend of the show and guest star, Nick Indeglio, my brother, texted me the other day, Keith, he bought an RV.
What?
Yeah.
Like what kind of RV? That could be many different things.
Like a giant home. Like a
mobile home, like camper dealing.
A 30-foot, fully spec'd out camper with like 4 TVs. It sleeps
with
8
what
to 10
money?
people.
Those things cost like $250,000. It's like a house.
Yeah, he got like a mortgage for it. It's so he's like, Memorial Day, will you take it for its first drive? Like, he doesn't know how, he's not an RV guy. He's not like, my brother's not like a camper. So like doing the sewage hookup and the water, there's so much.
So many questions. I mean,
he's learning.
Probably,
he's like, I'm listening to a lot of RV podcasts. I
should probably just talk to Nick about this, but like, what prompted this? What is the plan?
Speaking of therapy,
why?
I think if I believe.
Is he planning on going out on the lam?
No, I think they used to have a shore home that was in my sister-in-law's family, and that had to get sold for reasons or whatever. And I think they were thinking of buying a shore home, and they tended not to do that. They've been camping recently with some friends, and I think they just thought, well, maybe let's spend the money we were going to spend on a shore home on an RV, and we can travel a lot of places with the kids. I think. Now, my brother. No, this is not a judgment. It's just an observation. My brother often.
Probably a judgment.
Envisions the pretty picture. Without really acknowledging the steps to get to the pretty picture.
You have to empty the poop.
This is the first thing I said. I was like, man, it's not like you just plug it in and it works. Like so anyway, we're going on our first RV adventure. I said I would help him because I have a little bit of experience from my other brother-in-law. And I actually watch on my weird YouTube watches. I follow a couple of families who like RV a lot. So I have some knowledge. Anyway,
sure. You know what this is the face of somebody like working hard not to put that in the creepy bucket.
So we're doing a test run in like in a weekend coming up at just like a campsite 5 miles from his house, just to learn all the learns.
Sure.
And then we're gonna drive an hour and a half over Memorial Day to go to Knoebels, which is an amusement park. They have a whole campground, and we're gonna do that. So,
fun.
Wish us luck. Those are the updates on this side.
That's fascinating because it's less than 24 hours after my father was like, "Hey, your uncle and aunt, they're selling their RV. Yeah, I know you need a new place to live. Maybe the RV."
Hey, Keith, I could see you as like an RV guy, just like, "Hey, dude, can I crash?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, I got some space on my couch." No, I need to park in your driveway.
I mean, like literally, like, am I going to live in a Walmart parking lot? Is that the plan? But
I think you can do that.
I mean, like, I'm sure it's terribly nice. And frankly, as I said to him, like, hey, I am open to creative solutions at this point. Like, do you ever watch? Above.
You know what? After this, just quick jump on YouTube and Google. There are people who illegally live in storage units, and they like run hidden wires to get electricity, and they, some guys have made it work for like 4 or 5 months before they get found out and kicked out. So I'm just saying.
I mean, okay, well, I did say I was open to creative solutions. I think I'll probably not put that one first on my list, but so maybe after a couple of years of meth addiction, I'll be ready to do that. So, but what are we doing? Didn't we say we were going to do this quickly and go outside?
Yeah, I know. Well, we're just chatting, Keith. That's the beauty of this podcast. Okay, so we have a couple of things I want to talk about this week. Let's facilitate a conversation. I'd like to start with a video game I've been playing, Keith, which piggybacks off something you played a couple weeks ago. You played Jedi Fallen Order.
I did.
The initial Cal Kestis story, where he was a Jedi in hiding, and then he was out of hiding, and then he was Jediing. That's about the summation of it, right?
I think that's basically the story, yeah.
The new one came out, Keith. I like new stuff. So I went and I got myself Jedi Survivor on my good old PlayStation 5. Now, I've heard lots of reports, for those of you who might be PC gamers, that the PC port right now is pretty borked up. But that's generally kind of the case with these AAA releases. But I can tell you that my PlayStation 5 version is running really nice. It's got a dynamic resolution. See, one of the things that bothers me currently with current gen gaming, Keith, is on the new Xbox and the new PlayStation and the newer systems, they give you the option, right? You can either play in fidelity mode, which is the prettiest picture, 4K, some ray tracing, but they lock you at 30 frames per second.
Okay.
Or you can have the performance mode, which dynamically rescales the image all the way down to 1080p at times to give you a locked 60 frames per second. And when you game on 60 frames per second, it's very smooth and very nice.
Yeah.
But, it's Sophie's choice. I want all the bips and bops.
I mean, but here, I guess here's the question. Like, and I love, 4K stuff or whatever. But for my almost 43-year-old eyes and self, I don't notice that much of a difference between a good uncompressed 1080 and a 4K image. It's roughly the same to me.
I agree generally on the first party games. So in your God of War or your Forbidden West, when it's really well optimized for that platform, they're able to squeeze every bit of performance out of the machine. On a lot of the multi-platform games, I do find the 1080p is a little pixel bus.
Interesting.
But luckily for me,
of course, I'm basing that on video because I don't have a 4K gaming system, so I wouldn't even know.
And then once you game at 60 frames per second, it is
that I can definitely.
The smoothest butter is really nice. However, what's cool here is this game is so cinematic. To talk about the game, this game is so cinematic that I actually like the 30 frames. It gives it that sort of cinema feel. And the combat, spoiler alert, I generally play games that are combat heavy on easy because I don't love to learn all the combos and stuff. I'm really kind of in it to mainline the thing. Unless I fall in love with it, like Ghost of Tsushima, which is a PlayStation game, and then I wanted to play hard because I really got into the combat. Not important. Anyway, so I'm playing on the full fidelity mode. The game is beautiful. I think they took... I had played Jedi Fallen Order as well. They took the things that were cool about that game, the traversal, the lightsaber combat, and they blew them up. They gave you... Now you have multiple stances as Cal, so you can shift the way you're... shift the weapon you're using and shift the way your lightsaber works and have some depth there. There's a little bit more customization in the game. Remember last time it was like, here's an extra robe, here's a...
Right, I couldn't care less about any of that.
There's more to that here. There's more stuff. None of it is particularly interesting. The story it's got some epic set pieces, but I felt the same way as I felt about the last story. It's okay. It gets you from set piece to set piece pretty well.
Yeah.
I think the traversal is better in this game. I think that the fleshed out combat is better. It's really beautiful. It's moving quickly. I'm about 4 or 5 hours in. I think it's probably only about 10, 12 long, maybe 20 is my feeling as to where the narrative is.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be my question because the only beef I kind of had with the first game is it's a little short.
I think the main campaign, I don't know for sure. But the main campaign feels ish the same. It's definitely the maps are bigger, right? There's much more. Feels much more open worldy, without all of the like shit on your map to make you go chase down the extraneous stuff. But there is some rewarding sort of side mission-y type of thing, so it does pad out the experience a little bit.
Yeah.
All in all, I'm liking it. I'm definitely going to finish it, which is the benchmark for me because I bounce very quickly. If I'm not in love with something, I bounce. And this, because I put it on easy and there's not a ton to learn, and right from the jump, you have the dual lightsaber and you have all the stuff.
Oh, right.
I feel overpowered in the beginning, so I'm having a lot of fun with it. So I recommend. It's available last gen as well, PC, everything you can possibly get it on. It's on. It's going to be a quick experience because we've got a lot of other games coming out real soon. There was also another release this week I'll quickly mention. It's called Redfall. It's not great, but I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. So yeah, Jedi Survivor, for any of you who are interested, I mentioned it last week that I was playing a new game. I'm liking it. I don't love it, but it's pretty good.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll definitely play it. I mean, at some point I need to get myself a next gen machine so I can really play with all the stuff. But I found it very satisfying on the original. I mean, it's not quite as good to me as like the Tomb Raider franchise. I want them to come out with another Mad Max game, and I know they're probably waiting for the next movie. But I think that the Mad Max game that came out with the most recent movie was fantastic. I played
not
the
at all
entire
tied to
thing
that
twice.
movie for the record.
No, not really, not at all.
That's
but
Avalanche Studios released that.
It was immensely satisfying,
Mm-hmm.
and the second time I played it, I literally played till I had done every single possible thing you can do in the game because I thought it was really, really fun.
I think that's probably without hyperbole, one of the most underrated third-person open-world adventures. It is because in the first 20 minutes of that game, you're like, oh, this is very generic, very much just stock guy doing open-world stuff. But it's actually incredible, and it's almost an exploration artistically of negative space, because whereas like an Ubisoft game or a lot of open world games, there's so much to do. There's so many pinging things on your map, and there's so much to see.
Yeah.
It's like sensory overload. Whereas in Mad Max, it is just
very sparse.
Yeah. And so, when something happens, you're really focused on it. And the sandstorms, a lot of cool stuff.
I think what makes it so satisfying is you're taking over land, right? So you're owning pieces of the game. You're eventually conquering the entire world of that. And like you're just like each section, like, oh, I'm 75% conquered, I'm 85% conquered. It's really satisfying. It scratches whatever that dopamine thing of world conquest that I'm looking for, apparently.
Keith, word on the street is you saw some Broadway.
I did. I went to go see the final preview of New York on Broadway, which is it's a new old musical. It's based on a Martin Scorsese movie from 1977, but is also kind of not based on that. It's very different than that. It's a Kander and Ebb musical, using music from the movie, from some trunk songs of theirs, and some new stuff that he wrote with Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Go figure.
So
Lin's involved.
Yeah, so Lin's involved. So it's, but it's all very much in the style of classic Kander and Ebb. There's no like, this is a Lin-Manuel song. It's not. It's all very much in the Kander and Ebb style. And so it's hard to describe what it is. And I think, I think the oversimplification would be it's kind of a welcome to New York kiosk at a very, very high level. But that's not really, that's sort of an oversimplification, but it takes place in soon after World War II New York. And it's the story of, basically the people of New York and the immigrants of New York and everybody, trying to make it in the world, focusing on a musician, two musicians, a singer and played by Anna Uzel, and a jazz musician by Colton Ryan. And they have sort of like this love story, sort of. In the movie, it was very dark. This is not dark at all. Basically, it's a whole bunch of production numbers and set pieces set all around New York, all the famous places, right? We're in Grand Central, we're in Old Penn, we're in...
Do they do the steel workers on the steel
They
thing?
do the steel workers, and it's a great sequence. And then, of course, leading up to them finally performing New York, right?
Is it a book show, or is it like a review?
It is a book show.
Okay.
But I think the book is... a lot of the reviews said that the book is pretty thin and pretty stock. And there's not, and I think in some ways I agree. It's not that New York is not particularly hard edged in this, let's say, and the story is not particularly hard. It's basically a structure on which to put big fun production dance numbers.
Big orchestra.
Big orchestra. It sounds great.
Awesome.
The performances are really good. Colton Ryan has a whole sequence that I think you would very much appreciate, where it's like this number about all the instruments that he plays, and he walks like the room full of all like 1,000 instruments, from like piano to guitar to tuba to mandolin, whatever it is, and he actually like plays 8 bars of all of the instruments himself. And so it's like,
That's
it's a
fun.
self-tape. It's basically just a self-tape.
Yeah.
And so it's really fun. I think what really sticks out to me about this show is the production design. It has, in a lot of ways, it's the lighting it's a giant set. It's a really beautiful set. But a couple of behind the scenes things that make this show special. One, it's in the St. James, which those of us who are like, in the theater world nerdiness know that before Frozen came into the St. James, they tore out the back wall of the deck, meaning the stage, and extended the stage by another 15 feet or so for Frozen. So it's a very, very deep stage. And I think what that allowed them to do was for the projection wall on the back to rear project it, which makes it look so much better because all the lights in front are not interfering with the image that you're seeing. And so I'm not a big fan of projections at all. But what they did here with it's sort of photorealistic, but also sort of stylized in a way that makes it a little bit like it's been drawn, a little bit whatever. But it allows it to seamlessly integrate, and they're able to go to a whole bunch of different places. And where I'm not even sure, are they moving in a flat, or is that a projection? Because it feels so tactile because of the way they were able to do that. And so because of that, and because of the incredible lighting by Ken Billington, it's just, there's some really breathtaking sequences. Visually, I thought they did a rain effect that was probably the best rain I've ever seen on stage.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Without being actual rain, because sometimes they'll actually just drop actual rain. But this is all projections. But what they did, they put a scrim down, a very light scrim, projected on it, and then had a second layer on the back scrim of falling rain projections that gave it a real 3D feel because it was actually at multi depths that you're looking at it. And I was like, it's really kind of breathtaking. And then the other big sequence visually that I really enjoyed is they have a Manhattan Henge moment where they are. Basically what that means is that when the sun sets perfectly down one of the street lines, and you can see the sun right between the buildings all the way, and that it happens. Was it a couple times a year, twice a year, once a year?
Yeah, well, down Fifth, right? Broadway or Fifth.
Yeah, down Fifth. Whatever it was, it's an incredible effect because you have the sun going down in the projections on the back. But what they did is with this pink, orange, beautiful light, they then shot it from the back of the house. They turned the lights on, so it lit up the entire theater.
That's cool.
In this pink, orange glow as they're singing this beautifully arranged piece about it. So that was really cool. I thought that... So I think individual pieces of the show were incredibly successful and incredibly cool. The story itself, for me personally, I felt it was a little thin. It was a little, safe. It was a little like sanitized New York. It felt like a welcome to New York tourists kind of a thing. And I think
that's who they were hoping to capture.
Oh, for sure. And for me, it felt like it was probably about a half hour too long. Mm-hmm. But that said, it's an enjoyable night of theater. Definitely go see it if you can. And I can see the audience they're going for, right? Because it's literally right across the street from where Phantom closed. It's directly across the street. And this is the type of thing that if I'm a tourist from another country, you don't really need to know English that well. You don't need to, you don't have to really get too deep into anything. It's going to be an enjoyable thing to watch and see and experience, and it'll be very impressive and will feel very New Yorky, right? Mm-hmm. In the sort of Times Square-y New York, if you know what I mean. But frankly, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I'd check it out. I mean, don't go in expecting it to be like a, it's not Sondheim in its level of storytelling, but it's a heck of a thing to look at, and everybody sounds great.
Yeah, and this is not the type of show that's probably going to tour. It's probably, and I guess anything's possible.
I think it will.
You think? It's very big.
Oh, yeah.
I guess we'll see.
A scaled down version of it will. But also, it's big, but it is also not hydraulics heavy.
Right.
right? It's not like you need to be able to have a hydraulic lift in it and trapdoors or anything like that. No, it's like the deck is the deck. Things come in from the right, things come in from the left, and it's a lot of it's lighting. So yeah, they could totally do it.
Well, we're sort of in the post Tony nominations, pre-Tony Awards zone where like some shows have to close because they kind of got snubbed by the Tonys and they're not making enough money, so they're deciding to close up shop now. Some shows that aren't doing gangbusters at the box office are hoping that maybe the Tonys, the performance at the Tonys or whatnot will boost the box office a bit. Where does this show fall in that universe? Because you have a little bit more of hand on the numbers.
Yeah, I mean they're grossing okay. I don't think they're making. I don't think they're breaking even yet. So they've been grossing a little, somewhere between $950 and $1 million a week, which sounds like a tremendous amount of money, but that's probably about what their expenses are, especially at the St. James. So, for those not sort of in that world, the Tony Awards are absolutely essential for the Broadway industry as an advertisement. The awards of themselves, like, great, whatever. It's a big deal to us, right? But in terms of the box office, the performances on the Tonys, people see the performances, whether it's on YouTube for a clip or they see the whole show, and they're like, "Ooh, that's awesome! I want to go see that." Or even like, "I never even heard of that." That is absolutely essential, and
especially
so many shows
that has big production numbers like this, where they can pick a good one, really, because the Tonys are nothing more than really than a commercial.
But absolutely, no, it's absolutely a commercial, and if you're nominated, it certainly helps. In the marketing, like, we've won these Tonys, we're nominated for these Tonys, but sometimes like a show won't even be nominated, and they can perform on the Tonys if they pay. Mm-hmm. So. And a Jillian show did that. They're like, we want to do a number on the show, and they're like, okay, you have to pay for it, and they did, and it helps with the ticket sales. So yeah, it's a much bigger thing for the industry than like the Emmys or the Oscars, right? Because especially with the Oscars, their money's already made, really. They'll make a little bit more money if they win the Oscar, like in downloads and media. But for Broadway, it's ongoing. Mm-hmm. It's tomorrow night and the night after and the night after. It is absolutely essential to the health and survival of these shows. So I hope this one is able to stick around for a while.
There you go, New York. It's on the TKTS. There are discounts if you are hesitant to pay full price for it. You can still find a way to see it. But if you can afford it, pay the full price, as Keith says, because they could use it.
Rich people, we need your money. Poor people, i.e. me, there are ways to get in cheaper.
My only anecdote for this is I have a pal. Just last summer, literally a year ago, I was upstate in a little very teeny town in a teeny theater doing The Addams Family, and running opposite us was a little teeny play called Red, which is a two-hander. And this guy, Jeff, who I was sharing a house with, was in Red, and he had a great Broadway career. I think he's been in 6 Broadway shows, but had never been in an opening night cast. He'd always been in a Vacation Swing or a job in or something. And New York is his first opening night Broadway original cast. So that's cool. I mean, it's never
OBC, baby. That's the glory right there.
Yeah, you think that just being on Broadway a bunch of times, you've done the dream, but maybe dreams. Funny thing about dreams, they
are migratory. They keep taking that carrot on a stick just a little bit further away at all times.
Yep. I was just happy to do the Addams Family. To do anything with people sitting in seats. Okay, so
you just wanted to grow a mustache. Let's be honest.
Never will do that again. So I just wanted to quickly talk a little bit, Keith, about
Xbox?
The console. Sort of. So the head of the Xbox sort of brand and business division is this guy called Phil Spencer. Phil is sort of the face of Xbox, the console. Phil is the genesis of most of their moves and sort of strategies. And, Xbox has, in the recent years, really kind of diverged from the main war strategy of your Nintendos and your PlayStations, in that PlayStation and Nintendo are very console focused, right? This is our hardware focused. This is our piece of hardware. We're going to lock our games to it. You can't play them anywhere else. Make people buy the games, but force them to buy the hardware, which is very expensive. And keep them locked in your ecosystem, keep their dollars. Whereas Xbox kind of has been looking towards the future a little bit more, and they're more games as a service oriented, meaning they put a huge amount of money in Game Pass, which is basically a Netflix for games. You pay your X dollars a month or yearly, and you get first-party Xbox titles day and date when they launch. You have a huge library of past games, and they have this huge cloud initiative now too, where if you pay for your Xbox and you have a computer browser, you can stream the games. You don't need an Xbox to play Xbox games. And, there are limitations. The games right now are locked at 720 as they build out the infrastructure. And because of COVID and other reasons, not a huge amount of first-party games have been released. But not the point. That's just kind of what his vision has been. He's about... And where I'm going with this is that Redfall was, after years and years, Bethesda GameWorks is releasing Starfield later this year. And that is really, Xbox really has a lot of their hopes and dreams and money tied into that, because they're the guys who do Fallout. They're the guys who do, really Fallout and Skyrim, so the Elder Scrolls. So this is their big space opera, epic, huge role-playing game thing, but that's coming in the fall. So prior to that, their next big thing was a game. Oh my God, I'm forgetting the developer. Oh my God. Regardless, it's called Redfall, and it is a looter shooter, vampire slaying, co-op gaming adventure, which sounds pretty awesome, right? Keith? Yep.
Yes, sure. I'm looking up the company.
I cannot think of who developed the game, and it's
Arcane Studios,
who have done Dishonored. They did Deathloop. Really cool games. Not really my jam. I'm not a huge shooter guy, but great games. A lot of style. Really a credible level design. Arcane is known for really cool level design. Anyway, long story short, the game launched, and it is, by all intents and purposes, and I've played it enough to agree with most of the reviews. It's broken in many ways. It is uninspired and boring in some other ways, and just kind of generic. And mostly unfairly, the internet community has exploded with problems and complaints. Now,
gamers famously patient.
Yes. So that's not the conversation I actually want to have. Because, yes, the game is, but it's also fine. Like, the game is fine. And if you don't like it, you don't have to play it. Most people are playing it on Game Pass, which you're paying for anyway, so it's not a big deal. But regardless, Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, was scheduled to do just kind of an interview with a podcast. Now, it's not a you and me podcast. It's Kind of Funny Games, which is a huge
the podcast
business.
People listen to.
Yes, correct. Now, this interview was scheduled, I think, a day or 2 days after this game released in a really bad state to really, really bad reviews. And a ton of speculation started about, is Starfield in trouble? Does Xbox not care? Is Starfield there's just people, Phil should be fired. They should do the blah, 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 internet. So in any other business, in any other universe, it would be no surprise to anyone if Phil was like, hey, you know what? I'm busy. I can't make the interview. Because it's not, or it would have said, here are the 3 things we can talk about, right? If it was Diane Sawyer, let's say. But Phil goes on to the Kind of Funny Games Xbox show. You can Google it. It's all over the place. I'm not breaking news here. And sat down for like a 40-minute interview. And they, to their credit, they did not kiss his ass. They went for it. It brought up complaints they've heard, asked the hard-hitting questions, and he sat there and like owned it, apologized for it, but then unapologized. He was like, don't take my word for it. Here are the things we want to do. Here are the ways we were short, and don't take my word. The next game will be the proof in the pudding. And if you want to, like if we lost your money, then hopefully we'll earn it back. And, there was enough marketing speak in there. He's very skilled at maneuvering,
Right.
but you could tell he was disappointed, and he knew that they had dropped the ball in a lot of ways. And I thought the balls of him to just kind of go and face it really was a good look for the company. And he talked about the upcoming games. And basically what he said, Keith, which I thought would be an interesting small conversation here, was he goes, we sit in a world where it'd be easy to say, I'm only going to put out these type of games because that's what people are buying. They have all the metrics for who makes the most money. He goes, but they own all of these studios, and I want to let studios take big risks and take big swings and try things outside of their comfort zone, and sometimes and provide them with enough artistic support and resources to help them achieve that. But not everything can be a home run, and sometimes you come up short, and sometimes you end up releasing a game in a broken state because it's extra time wouldn't have helped them fix it, and
Yikes.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, sometimes a Broadway show is a flop, but the creators go out. Sondheim had to do his frogs, or what, you have sometimes creators create, and not everything can be a smash. And what an interesting nexus of business and art. And you want your boss to say, hey, I'm going to let you go out there and fail. I'm going to let you go out there and do your thing without saying, no, you got to make it this kind of game because that's what people are buying. And so I just thought it was, we often as consumers just want the best stuff. And if a game isn't a 10 out of 10, we don't want to play it. And I often think, even myself now, the hype cycle for stuff is filled with, I want to watch a bunch of trailers. I want to watch all the reviews. And sometimes you put yourself in a place where, maybe you should just play the game. If you're interested, play the game, experience what the artists, the developers, or listen to the album, whatever it is, experience the art for yourself, make your own determination, and maybe you can extract something from it and not try to just boil it down to good, bad, because there's nuance, and that goes for any art. We're talking games, music, giant productions, individual performances, everything. I just thought it was it really kind of made me stop and sit down and think about how I consume media, how I judge media, and am I being hypocritical in the way I approach art as an artist versus how I approach art as a consumer?
Well, I think it's interesting discussion for sure, especially for artists and creators. And it's like I think what he's saying and what he knows is that art is subjective, right? And also you can always be safe and put out a B+ whatever, whether it's a Marvel movie or whatever. But if you want to make something special, you have to risk failure. Like anything that is special, anything that is memorable, anything that is like, oh my God, this opened up a new genre. This is not one of those movies where I'm like, yeah, it was pretty good, but I'm going to watch it again and again. I'm going to show a friend. I'm going to whatever. You have to take risks, and you have to be willing to fall on your face. Because if you're not, you can definitely be good, but you can never be great. And you say with Broadway, most shows flop, most shows fail, but and I think the audience is becoming a little bit more discerning about the people, trying to hit a double, right? But you want to know the shows that change the world? You want to talk about Rent. You want to talk about Hamilton. You want to talk about the shows that on paper people are like, nobody wants to see that. That's weird. That's not the same thing as what we're used to. And Hamilton is the most contemporary sort of example of that. Like a diverse hip hop version of our founding fathers. That's insane. Who the hell would want to see that? It's like you want to rap our historical things nobody knows about or cares about. Like it sounds like a school assignment run amok. Well, it was Hamilton, right? So you got to take, the big swings are the ones that hit. No, sometimes, you miss the ball and you screw yourself into the ground. I've done it. But that's where the exciting stuff is, and some of the most exciting stuff that I've ever seen are the big swings that didn't connect. But I remember those a heck of a lot more than whatever mediocre 90s movie, the musical.
Mm-hmm.
Those are gone, right? But I remember Dance of the Vampires. I remember it in my life. I remember some of these shows that were famous flops, but like they freaking went for it. And that's what's exciting.
Yeah, I'm much more interested in conversations about media rather than just like a number, something out of 10, because it serves no one really at the end of the day. Yeah, and obviously reviews can destroy shows as well. So it's an interesting.
Yeah,
I thought I'd bring it up. You should check out the interview. I'll link it below, or I won't. Just Google it. That's that. Okay, last thing. Let's talk some rad, Keith. Throw me. You go first, and then I'll close it.
I always forget. You have to go first, and I have to think of my rad.
Well, mine's sort of like a whole thing I prepared, so just kind of.
It's like a whole thing. All right. God, what's rad in my life right now? Well, you know what? It is spring.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I have found particularly rad right now is in this small amount of property in this home that I have for now, that I won't forever, I have planted things. I've planted bushes and vegetables and my maple tree in my backyard. And in the couple of years that I've been here, one of the great joys of owning something and having land is to watch the things I plant grow. And so I, spent the morning sitting out and watching my maple tree and seeing how it is growing and flourishing. And I think that there's something so inspiring and so much renewal and calming about watching something that I just plugged into the dirt. The pumpkins are coming up, right? I put a seed in dirt and now it's coming up as a plant. And I think that there is something primal about the enjoyment of that. And that's something that has been passed down through my family and has been a big part of our life for a long time. But here in this tiny little patch of land in New Jersey, a tree grows. And I'm very proud of that tree.
When a thing is wick, Keith,
when a thing is wick.
Got a life about it.
It's got a life about it. Yeah. Maybe not a life like you and me.
No. I can't
do
the
accent. Will it grow?
Accent.
It will.
I can't do the accent. So I'll close with, some Geekly's back. We did that weird experiment of when I'm not looking at the camera, it can make my eyes look like it's looking at the camera.
Yeah, you sure
and
did.
And then I think we also played a little bit with ChatGPT and looked at like these kind of nascent universe that AI exists in, and in its nascent stage, it's still very advanced and scary as to where we're all headed.
Terrifying.
So this week at work, I was working on a project, and I had to create a whole series of videos for this new product that's launching. And we had a really hard deadline because a lot of times, as happens in many industries, the people at the top make the deadline before the people under the people on the top built the thing, right?
Yeah, like maybe like a certain video game had a system like that.
Yeah. So I built all these videos, and I scripted them based on the, really just the mocks that I had seen. So I didn't see anything real, and it got approved through all the people who had to approve it, and I produced all the videos, and I hit my deadlines, and everything was great, Keith.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the day before the deadline, they're like, oh no, it went through review, and these things changed, and we need all of these changes. Now, I had probably done 45 minutes to an hour and a half of voiceover, and as you know, that's in work time is a lot more than that time. And then there's a couple of hours of another woman that I work with who did a bunch of voiceover for stuff, and she was out of town. She had left. She did her voiceover and then left because she was on she had vacation. And so I had to come up with a solution as to how to adjust all of this in a day's time. And so I started researching voice AI, which is something I had not known much about or done much of. So I ended up using a program called Descript for work. And because I have an enterprise license, I can't show it to you here on the YouTube. I don't think. I'm not gonna risk it. But basically what I use it for is it takes video and transcribes it Okay, it transcribes the video. And on the back end, it has all of the video. So then I can go into the actual transcript on like a Word doc, basically, and cut and paste, edit, cut things out, move things around, just like a document. And then it will, in the background, stitch the video together based on the transcript, which is just a time saver when you're working with webinars and things that don't need to be like blended really well in After Effects or whatever. That program has an overdub feature where it will learn your voice, and you can then, if you put in enough hours of voice, and then patch in certain words, which works really well. And I used it for this project and it worked pretty good. But that doesn't solve the problem I had about this lady, my colleague, who was not working. And also I thought to myself, well, what if I was sick or something and had to record a whole paragraph?
Mm-hmm.
And to my chagrin / excitement, I'm just going to share, I found many programs who offer this service of voice cloning. I'm just going to share one that is free-ish. They have a free trial or a free monthly thing so that I can show for you on the internet here. And this is a website called play.ht that I have pulled up over here. So Keith, I fed it, you can feed it as little as 10 minutes of your voice. Up to the more you feed it, the better it gets the algorithm. And so I just gave it some stuff. And then what I thought would be fun.
Do we have 10 minutes of us talking somewhere?
I don't know where that could be. I have enough to we could probably just do our whole podcast. Now, yes, it's not great with nuance and inflection, and you can regenerate things a bunch of times to try to do better. It's still in its early stage, but it's scary for where it is. Because it's not based on my vocabulary. It is cloning it entirely. So here we are. I thought we'd do an experiment, Keith. Here we are, and it's just a Word doc. I'm going to allow you to.
Oh, okay.
Just riddle me something. Riddle me a sentence. Wax me a lyric, something beautiful.
Oh, I'm going to tell you something very beautiful that you don't even know yet, but has come in. Mike, available now on Zazzle from our good friend JD Makes. You can, and I really mean this, purchase a Grab 'em by the Bazorp Zorp t-shirt right now.
I don't know if it's going to do is Bazorp. Bazorp? Bazorp? Zorp.
Let's see what it does.
T-shirt. Okay, so there's some words in there that aren't words. There are... let's see if it can make this sound even remotely like me. Very interested. I don't know how this is going to turn out, so...
Let's find out. We're going to find out together.
It's doing it in real time.
Okay.
It's already scary.
Yes, I'm not kidding.
Wait, he made a t-shirt?
Yeah. I'm going to buy one right now.
Could you, well, how much is it?
$18.
You know what? I'll buy it myself so I can have it shipped here, but I can't wait. Oh, JD,
he did the whole graphics. I'm like, there's literally a graphic of Trump with Bazorp. It's on Facebook. There you go.
12 seconds. That was about, let's hear. Oh, hold on. Stop. I got to put up the thing. Okay, here we go. Now we should hear it. Available now on Zazzle. From our good friend Jade Makes, you can, and I really mean this, purchase a Grab 'em by the Bazorp Zorp Zorp t-shirt.
There it is.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty damn good.
So, I know what you're thinking, dear listener. You really want to play with that, and I encourage you to do so. It's play.ht. That is the website. There are other ones out there, but that's just the one I've been playing with, and that's the free one. The stuff I've been doing at work, Keith, with the enterprise version is of Descript, really crazy. Really crazy. In certain workflows, really helpful, of course. But in other ways, really scary as to what that means. I've already heard tale of people who are doing ransom calls and such using that. And
oh yeah, I mean, the ability to do this coming up with the election, I think, is absolutely terrifying. But
now, I'll say this for Descript, at least for the companies that are on the up and up that I appreciate, they wouldn't clone your voice until you submitted a formal written request and permission with your ID and proving that you're you and that you want this done. So I thought that was pretty responsible, but none of the other programs that I've played with on the internet have requested anything. Like I did my colleague very easily.
Did you actually like make the videos for real?
I did, yes.
Amazing.
And it worked well enough for what we're doing. So
right.
All right, buddy. Well, we talked for a lot longer than I expected.
It's exactly what I expected, but it's okay because it all ended with the T-shirt.
I can't wait. Send me a link
stupid
right away.
I said 18 hours ago.
Yeah.
There's now a T-shirt, and I'm ordering it as we speak.
The future's wonderful. Hey, we have other shows, folks. If you like listening to our non-AI generated voices, we watch every episode of Deep Space Nine. You can find that on the channel. We watch every episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. That's on the channel. We also play with Star Trek toys, Playmates, action figures from the 90s, current day. Starting tomorrow, we're going to be reviewing the Star Trek Prodigy line. Just kidding. That happened yesterday, so it's already on your feed. Check us out. Also, check out our Patreon. That's patreon.com/KNM. We thank all of these fine folks, as always. Keith,
yes.
I could lead us out here, but let's just put our hands up here and let Mike take it away.
Yes.
Well, folks, that will do it for Geekly this week. Until next time, keep on doing the things you find fun. Don't let anyone yuck your yum, and keep on geeking on.